Hello! I've already made a list of my favourite uses of classical music in films. Now, it's time to spill the beans on uses of classical music in cinema that I am not so keen about. Trigger warning, some of your favourite films may be on this list.
You have been warned!
In that spirit of love, let's start with a film I like, by a director I like, with music I love, by a composer I adore. What could possibly go wrong? This, I'm afraid, is a classic case of using classical music to try to look classy. It's a police investigation into a series of gruesome murders, but what are they actually doing? Morgan Freeman basically walks around a library. There's lots of books around, thinking needs doing. This is highly cerebral, hence the bark. Clever. Only, they don't solve anything. You just look at famous book titles. An entirely redundant scene in an otherwise good film. Not clever, but clever. At number 4 comes this overblown monstrosity. You know, when you use a bit of classical music in a film, you're using a piece of history, and you should probably have some understanding of the context of the music you're using. Oh, unless you're making V for Vendetta. In that case, it's a bit of music with cannons. This film's got explosions in it. That'll do. Forget the fact that Tchaikovsky wrote what he thought was bombastic rubbish to commemorate a building, an actual building being built. Let's use it in a film where we destroy some buildings. What a surprise. The author of the original comic, Alan Moore, doesn't like this film adaptation. And even more surprise, there's no Tchaikovsky in the comic book. Rant over. At number 3 comes this curio. I must say, I feel a little guilty about this one. I mean, I like the film, and I love the music. Great choice, underused but highly melodious piece of Bach. Let's use it for a scene where William Hurt attempts to explain music to a deaf person. Excuse me, by doing what? William, are you okay? Is this a medical issue? I know what they're trying to do here, but it just doesn't come off. What you actually get is a rather large dollop of cringe. Okay, let's move on, because at number 2 comes a very celebrated bit of filmmaking. Slow motion death. Come on, Oliver Stone. Sam Peckinpah was doing this years before.
Fight!
In fact, Monty Python were already satirising it years before too. It's just so hackneyed and obvious and crass. Crass is a perfect word to describe the director, Oliver Stone. I also have a problem with the music itself. Am I the only person who finds Barber's Adagio a bit dull? Although I have to say, its use in David Lynch's Elephant Man is much better, and that deserves an honorary mention. But here, yeah, war is hell, I know. Which leaves, in first place, or should that be last place, to an even more famous marriage of music and pictures.
I know, I ought to love it, being there at the meeting of one of the great film directors and one of the great composers. That Russian fella, awfully good music. And yet, it all feels so terribly dated.
It is true for you, isn't it? This overwhelming feeling we have for each other. It's as true for you as it is for me, isn't it? Yes, it's true.
Oh, just get a room.
I know, I'm being horribly cruel, but if we English make such cringy lovers, do we really need a whole film of it? And the music, yes, it just makes everything seem even more overblown.
Do you mind if we turn that down a little? It really is deafening.
Of course not. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I'm getting all... my top lip quivering. Might emote. 9 across, 2 words. Please subscribe.